Building a Better Broward Podcast with your host, Greg Brewton.
Hello, and welcome to Building a Better Broward, hosted by GBA Consultants. We're here this morning to have our very first episode where we bring about the positive things that's going on within the community and to bring about transparency and education as we look at building Broward County. I am 50 years into the business within planning and zoning and redevelopment within Fort Lauderdale and the Broward County area. And I'm delighted to have with me this morning a very good friend, a colleague who has been very instrumental in the redevelopment of what has been known previously as the forgotten city of the forgotten area of Broward County, the forgotten area of Fort Lauderdale, the area that we all affectionately describe as the 33311, the Sistrunk Corridor area, boundaries extending from Broward Boulevard north to Sunrise Boulevard and from basically Federal Highway west to the city limits on the west end. With me is Clarence Woods, the manager of the CRA. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for being here this morning. And we want to be able to have a very candid conversation with you today. Can we just talk?
Absolutely. I look forward to just chopping it up and having a conversation.
So, Clarence, in your, first of all, I want to commend you on the job that you've done. We stole you from Dade County, and you've been here in Broward County doing some tremendous work within Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
And I want to commend you on your efforts.
I appreciate that.
You took on the challenges that existed within the area, and you've expanded the opportunities for many, many individuals to thrive within that, well, as I said before, the 33311. I grew up in that area. I'm very familiar with it. After almost 50 years of service to Broward County, 35 of which was with the city of Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, listen, there aren't too many living men that have their names on the building, so.
But it's all been fun. It's something that I've always dreamed of doing, even as a kid.
Well, you know what? I commend you because not only my relationship with you, but your reputation within the city. Everybody knows and love you, and that's even the elected officials even now. So it's a testament to who you are and the work that you've done in those 50 years. I'm talking even beyond your service for the city of Fort Lauderdale. You have a good name in the city, brother, and that's more important than anything.
To God be the glory. Right? It's all for his mercy that I've been able to do this. But let's kind of talk about some of the things that we know. A lot of people aren't really familiar with the CRA in general. And for those who may or may not know what that means, CRA, it means the Community Redevelopment Agency. And sometimes it gets confused with the Community Redevelopment Agency Board, the Community Redevelopment Agency staff in the area. Can you kind of talk about that?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because for like you said, there is some confusion around that acronym, CRA. In our world, it's Community Redevelopment Agency. But then there's also the CRA, which is the Community Reinvestment Act, which is an act that was put in place by banks to regulate banks, to make sure banks are, I think there's two tests. There's the investment test, and then there's the lending test. If banks are to keep their charter, they have to lend in underserved areas, and then they have to provide investments in those underserved areas. If they don't, they could actually lose their charter. So there's a CRA, which is a Reinvestment Act, and then the CRA, which is the Redevelopment Agency. Now, the distinction that you're talking about where CRA, the Fort Lauderdale CRA is concerned, is that we are governed by the five commissioners, four commissioners of the city of Fort Lauderdale and the mayor. They serve as our board. They are what we call the board of commissioners of the CRA.
Okay.
And then we also have an advisory board, which are an 11-member community-based board that are appointed by the five board of commissioners, who are, again, the city commission. They sit as the city commission that sits as the CRA board of commissioners. So those are the distinctions.
That's kind of interesting, because when you talk about the CRA board, which is the advisory board, to the CRA commission, I want to call it, for lack of a better term, there's a challenge there from time to time in terms of making sure that the goals and things that you're trying to achieve as a CRA is adopted by not only the board and the commission, but by the community at large, and understanding the community, understanding the vision of the CRA and embracing that, because it's being done for the betterment of the entire community, not just for an individual group of people.
Well, you know what, man, you just mentioned one word that really is the driving force, the catalyst. It encapsulates everything that we actually do. When you say vision, man, that is the end all and be all, when it comes to redeveloping communities. What's the vision? There are two things that, in my opinion, after being in city government for 25 years now, and what I've come to understand, there's two things that really drive the health and success of communities. Is leadership and vision. If you have good leadership, and that leadership has a vision, and they can articulate that vision. One of my favorite books says, write the vision, make it plain, so they that run, they can read it, even as they run.
Yes.
So that means you're making that vision really, really digestible. You can understand it. You know where you're going, and you can, drive all of your efforts based on that vision. So, we've been fortunate to have good enough leadership, within the CRA, as well as our board of commissioners. And what I have to take my hat off about and be thankful for is that they've entrusted me with the vision that was articulated to me. And, we CRAs have their, and I don't know if you want me to get into what a CRA is and how that all came about, but we have what we call our redevelopment plans. And it's basically our blueprint or our guidebook for how we redevelop communities. And, that vision was articulated, and then, you allow for whatever leader you choose, in this case, me, to interpret that vision and then bring, more life or whatever to the vision.
So let's talk, man.
Okay.
So we know the challenges that exist, and I think it's important for us to really talk about those challenges as it relates to accomplishing that vision in the face of adversity from individuals, because the CRA is just one part of the city. Small part of the city, but it's an important part, because a city is no stronger than its weakest link. And for years, growing up in Fort Lauderdale, being from that area, as I said earlier, it was sort of the forgotten area. Everything else around it was
being kind.
I'm being kind.
You're being kind.
I'm being diplomatic. I'm being a little diplomatic.
Okay.
But, it was all about what was going on in other areas of the city.
Yes.
And we had commissioners. I can think back to Commissioner DeGraffenreich, Commissioner Moore, Commissioner DuBose, Commissioner McKenzie. Now we have a district commissioner, Commissioner Pamela Pittman, Dr. Pittman, and all of those challenges to see that this area does not suffer from being
and get left behind. Yeah.
Is on the shoulders of one individual, basically, because they have to they have to gain the support of the other three commissioners and the mayor
Yeah.
in order to accomplish anything. And fortunately for us in Fort Lauderdale, that's been a union that's been very, very good. But it is a challenge.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about some of those challenges that you've seen?
Absolutely. I think we should take a step back and kind of define what CRAs are and why they came about, because it really speaks to the issue that you're talking about, where, a particular community should not be left behind. A CRA, not the Community Reinvestment Act, but the Community Redevelopment area, it really came about really because of the same reason that the SEC created the Community Reinvestment Act. It really is a legacy of redlining. When the federal government had policies, where we couldn't go in certain places in certain areas, which was a federal government, mandate or law about where Black folks could actually live and stay. But then that also migrated into business itself, which, you had banks, redlining certain areas. So with redlining of certain areas, and I forget exactly when, there was an acknowledgement that this stuff happened, and to try to remedy the redlining situation, they came up with the community redevelopment agencies, which allowed for states to create an agency that would address the problems of redlining within those areas. So, in order to get a CRA, that CRA has to be determined to be slum and blighted. And then, most of our communities where there's divestment, or, you've had all of these different ills and issues. I think there's like 7 different requirements that need to be met. And I think out of the 7 or 8, only 2 or 3 needs to be met in order for an area to be determined as a slum and blighted area, or CRA, community redevelopment area, a community redevelopment area. So, unfortunately, most of our communities, when you look at the boundaries, because you have to have boundaries, there has to be, a designated area. It can't just, it's not going to be every place within the city, because there are a lot of areas, especially in a place like Fort Lauderdale, or in the city of Miami, where I come from. A lot of areas are doing quite well, but there are areas that have been left behind. So the city of Fort Lauderdale has 2 CRAs. Actually, it had 3. One has sunset. The one that sunset is the beach CRA.
Okay.
Meaning that it no longer is functioning, because they've actually lived out its purpose, and the area has been redeveloped and whatnot. And some people would say, that's funny, that you can have the beach area be slum and blighted. But actually, at one point in time, it again, there are 7 different criteria, and an area can be determined blighted just because of the grid and the street layout, inefficient traffic patterns, and all of that. So there's some technical specifics to it, and they did qualify it, but it is no longer functioning and operating. So the 2 that are functioning and operating are the Central City CRA and then the Northwest Progresso CRA, which is the one we are, really talking about here now. So the boundaries for the Northwest Progresso CRA is Broward Boulevard on the south. It's the north side of Broward Boulevard. That's the southern boundary. And then the northern boundary is Sunrise Boulevard. It's the south side of Sunrise Boulevard. And it is Federal Highway on the east. It's the west side of Federal Highway. That's the eastern boundary. And then it's the city line, which is 24th Avenue. That's the boundaries for the CRA. That's the area that was studied and determined to be slum and blighted. The Northwest, which we, affectionately call the 33311.
Yeah.
And So what happens is once there's a determination that it's slum and blight, the taxes, the ad valorem taxes that are paid by property owners in the year that the agency is created. So 1995 is when the Northwest Progressive Flagler Heights CRA was created. In that year, that's what we call the base year. In that year, all of the ad valorem property taxes that were being paid to the taxing authorities, meaning the city, the county, the hospital district, and then the children's trust or whatever that agency is, all of the taxes that were being paid, to them, the millage that they levy, gets frozen in that year.
Gotcha.
So that means, in other words, if you were paying $1,000 in taxes and it was being broken up between those four taxing authorities, the $1,000 that you as a property owner was paying will continue to go to those taxing districts, the city, the county, hospital district, and the children's services. Any increase in the valuation, or if your property appreciates, the difference between that $1,000 that you were paying that was frozen at that 1995 year, the difference comes to the CRA, our agency, to be able to utilize that money to then put it back into the area, basically with real estate development, and help to redevelop the area. So that's essentially what a CRA is. So when you talk about the difficulties, obviously, the city of Fort Lauderdale has 4 commission districts. The Northwest CRA actually comprises of 2 of those commission districts. It's District 3, which is Commissioner Beasley Pittman, and then District 2, which is Commissioner Glassman. So your assessment of the challenges in being able to get other board members to go along and create a vision for areas that is not their district. They don't have constituents in the. I shouldn't say they don't have constituents, because if you are an elected official, all of the city is your constituent.
Amen.
It's really the way I look at it.
Yes.
But they're not the ones that elected or brought them into service. So Commissioner Beasley Pittman and Commissioner Glassman at times have challenges, in trying to, and we'll probably talk about this in a minute. And sometimes there are competing interests, because you got to remember the Board of Commissioners also sit as this. They are also the city commissioners, and sometimes there are competing values or competing interests, where CRA dollars that are meant to go to the agency, and they don't go in. Well, they come from the general fund into the redevelopment trust fund, the account that the money goes to, so that we can then take that money and then reinvest it back in it.
And that leads to the point of the challenges, and talking about those challenges and understanding that there are challenges, but the ultimate goal is for all of the elected officials to have one common goal, and that's the growth of.
Yes, it's the rising tide floats all boats.
There you go.
The worst, if you don't deal with the problem that's in your community, it can be a drain on the rest of.
And we've been blessed to have a commission that has the foresight to be, to focus on that. So in saying that, let's talk about, I remember as a kid, when there was segregation. So I grew up in the segregated era of this country.
Right.
And part of Fort Lauderdale was everything east of the tracks.
Yes. Like in many communities.
And everything west was something else.
Yeah.
We're blessed now to be able to say that this CRA in particular encompasses both areas, which means the development of the CRA has a combination of those erasing those ills that was with us for many, many years,
Uh-huh.
and being able to unite those two communities together
Mm-hmm.
for the betterment of an overall redevelopment of a city. And you know, you see
Well, so it's interesting that you would say that because, again, that's the reality of life here in America, man, it's, so that was one of the things that it really interested me when I was asked to come and sit down and have a conversation about taking the position here. Um, and I looked at what was going, I really wasn't interested. I was going to go off and do development on my own and whatnot. But then, as I looked at the city of Fort Lauderdale, being from Miami, I'm like, man, understanding the history of Miami and all of that Overtown, which is where, I ran the CRA at. There were so many similarities, man. Even so, D.A. Dorsey, the first millionaire whose home is there in Miami, Dorsey River Bend here is the same D.A. Dorsey.
D.A. Dorsey.
You know what I mean? So there's just so many similarities. And then you talk about the tracks and how the tracks separated, east and west. Most of the time, or the east side, was the nice side or whatever. It's the same here, same in Miami. But here's the thing about CRAs and the wisdom of CRAs to speak to the point that you were going to. The way in which CRAs, when we look at the boundaries of a CRA and you look at how you're going to get a CRA redeveloped. It's and you're a planner, you know this, and I don't have to, convince you of this. What they do is they look at an area when they draw those boundaries. They look at an area and they say, well, where is development is going to come first?
Yeah.
And we see very clearly what happened in the CRA here in the Northwest. They understood that development would come on the east, that Flagler Heights area.
Yes.
That development would come there first. Well, with development coming in the Flagler Heights area, the CRA, the little bit of money that we had, we seeded development over there. You seed that development and you allow it to grow and build because eventually all of that increment, the appreciation and the values is what's going to rebuild the other side.
The other side. Absolutely.
So it's strategic, it's intentional, and that is actually what happened. Flagler Village built up, it grew. Now
we're beginning to see the fruits of all of that.
And it's coming to the other side.
And that's what people not understanding. I think that's what when people start looking at what's happening.
Yeah.
It becomes a bit of a surprise to them. They're like, well, this is, look what's happening. It's all this development is coming over on our side.
Yeah.
And we're saying that's strategically planned that way.
It was strategic. and here's what I don't want people to misunderstand. It's not now the west side where all of the development and building people, it's funny because in the central city of CRA, you got neighbors in the central city CRA saying that they don't want to be what Flagler Village is because of the heights and certain things like that.
Yeah.
What they may consider to be some of the not so pleasant aspects of growth and development, right? Casting shadows with tall buildings and all of that kind of stuff. So when you look at how Flagler Village has developed, it wasn't, and it isn't a single family type community.
Right.
It's a lot of multifamily developments.
Right.
And, but it wasn't that. It was really bad.
That's right.
What people don't realize and see, sometimes there's the misconception and understanding that, now Flagler is being built, so it's our money that's going to go and build the west side. Well, guess what? It's them single family houses that's been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
That money that was seeding the development over on the west side was seeding development over on the east side. It was folks who had stable single family homes
Yes.
that went to
Yes.
seed that over there.
Right.
Now, the only reason it's growing in such a exponential fashion is because from a single family home to multifamily developments, obviously you're going to get more appreciation on that side. So now that you got the appreciation with the multifamily development and it's throwing off more tax revenue,
Mm-hmm.
that tax revenue is being being used to rebuild
Yes.
the other side, which was the intent
Absolutely.
all along. That's the area, the area that's really slum and blighted was, the areas, where divestment happened. You know what I mean? And you look at,
Let's talk
over
about
these.
some of those projects.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of the projects that
Man, that's
have already been on
so many of
construction.
them.
So many of them, and I
Yeah.
think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that so many good things have happened.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the good things that have happened in terms of the redevelopment.
So
of
let
there.
me start from the tracks. You got Sistrunk Market. That's a development we put $1.4 million into. It's a food hall and eatery.
By the way, that's dear to my heart because being a big guy, I'm always looking for some new food. But go ahead.
all right. And then just west of Sistrunk, you have 613, which is affiliated development. Jeff Burns. I think we gave them $7 million. It's 140 something apartments. And then as you come a little further west, you keep going west. Now you have the Arcadian development. We gave them $10 million. That's 400 and almost like 500 units. Gave them $10 million to do that. Just across the street, another development that you're involved in,
Mm-hmm.
the Adderley, we
Yes.
gave them $12 million
Mm-hmm.
for 423 units.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, then you look at Sistrunk View, which is coming.
Right.
Again,
Yeah.
you been instrumental in Sistrunk View. It's going to be almost 100 units of affordable housing, completely affordable,
which is kind of
from
important. Yes.
from 30% AMI up to 80%. So nobody will be able to say you're not building for the neighborhood.
Right.
30% of area median income, 30%. That's what they call ELI, extremely low income. Up to 80% of the area median income. Essentially, you're talking about somebody that's going to be able to get an apartment for like $400.
Right.
$400
In today's market.
in today's market.
That's
Yes,
a tremendous advantage to
And-
people there.
Right. And we provided the land as well as $5 million to do
Right.
that.
But when you talk about these projects,
Mhm.
I think it needs to be explained that when projects occur and you guys support these projects, and even if it's an affordable housing
Mhm.
project or whatever,
Mhm.
the development of that site is not low development. In other words,
No.
it isn't low quality development.
Oh, absolutely. not.
You're talking about on a unit for $400 to $500
That's going to
that
be
would
like,
be comparable to any market rate unit that's in the area in
yes.
terms of the
yes.
look of it, the feel of it,
Yes.
the amenities that's involved with the development. And
highly amenitized.
Yeah.
Highly amenitized. Have pools, you have community rooms. The finishes and materials are top notch. You're talking, you have Corian countertops, you have some of the finishes on the wood. You got real wood grain finishes, top notch. Flooring is top notch. A lot of these buildings are LEED certified. They're green,
Mhm.
meaning they have a certain level. Most of them are like gold when you talk about the certification for green standards.
So the improvement in the quality of life is important because
Absolutely.
not throwing any disrespect to some of the older units, but you look around the community and
No,
you
it's
see some
nothing.
units
Yeah.
that were there when I was a kid
Yeah.
and they've never been upgraded. I don't care to
Yeah.
mention any names or anything like that, but we all know who they are, where they are.
Yeah.
But it's exciting for me
Yeah.
to see the extent of where we've come from
Right.
in terms of the quality of life
Yep.
for
Mhm.
individuals within the community, based on what was there previously. And I think that's important to
Well, with our redevelopment focus, our primary goal is to eliminate slum and blight and improve the quality of life for the residents. That's the bottom line. That's the end all be all. Improve the quality of life for residents.
And you're not going to support a project that doesn't include that.
No. In addition to that, one of the things that I'm not saying, and I think is very important to, I don't know if I should break or come in with this aspect of the conversation. And I'm sure some of the folks listening to us would be sitting there, probably sitting there saying, yeah, you're just gentrifying the neighborhood. Well, you know what? That is a very touchy conversation. And like I said, in 25 years of doing this, I've had the fortune and misfortune of being in conversations regarding, the idea of gentrification. And my thing is I come to a community that's been divested and devastated.
Yes.
When I come into my communities, and whether it's Overtown or the Northwest, and I look around and I see the landscape. So what do we do? Do we leave it like that, or do you improve it? The issue really isn't real estate redevelopment, because it has to change, right? And you want it to change for the better for the people living there. My issue has always been, how do I get people to still be there and not get pushed out when we bring about the change?
Yes.
So the investments that we make sure that we don't displace anybody. No one is being displaced because of our investment. Now, what some might say is that there's gentrification through taxation. The issue that always arises, if you're not an owner, and I'm talking about residential, because you got to remember, here in Florida, we have the Save Our Homes cap.
Yes.
The valuation of your property can't, if your property is homesteaded, the valuation of your property can't increase more than 3% a year. If you're homesteaded. My issue comes when we're talking about, folks that are renting and whatnot. But what we found in Overtown, if you go to Overtown, I started working at the CRA in Overtown in 2007. I took leadership in 2012. And the transformation that you see there now is just crazy. I'll give you one little anecdotal story. The guy who actually trained me, his name's Jim Villacorta, great guy. This guy, he was one of the city attorneys. He was the city attorney assigned to the CRA, but this guy also had a degree, MBA in finance. He was a GC.
Wow.
And he was an attorney. Okay. Everything that you want as a developer.
Yeah.
So he basically, he trained me, and that's where I got my training from. I call him my mentor. He's my mentor, Jim Villacorta. He passed in 2010 from prostate cancer. But when I first came over to the CRA in 2007, I sat with him. And I was having conversations with this developer who wanted to develop on some land that the CRA owned. And he brought some renderings in. And on the renderings, it showed a Publix because they had a relationship with the guys that developed Publix. And he laughed. So, man, he was like, he's like, man, he said, man, this is what he said to me. He said, man, if Publix comes here over town, in any one of those spaces, Clarence, we could pack up and go. This place will be developed. It'll be totally gentrified. So what you should know is there's a Publix in Overtown right now, right there across the street from the exact spot that this
Wow.
guy in 2007 was showing me,
Okay.
Where they wanted to put a Publix. It's Brightline. The Publix is they're in the Brightline, is actually their home office. Flagler Development Brightline
Okay.
was one of my projects there as well. I say that to say that the idea of gentrification really is a market-based issue.
Right.
It really is market-driven.
Yeah.
If your land is not as expensive as land on the other side,
Yes.
and somebody come and make you an offer
Yeah.
that you can't refuse,
Yeah. How do you say to someone who might have invested their time and effort in buying a piece of property 25, 30, 40 years ago,
and now they can cash
and
out
now
and they can go.
Yeah. How do you
stop
tell
that?
that person not to,
How do you,
yeah.
right? You know what I mean?
You can't control who buys the property.
Now listen, let me say this to you, Greg. That was my experience in Overtown. I couldn't tell, Overtown was just so hot. We did what we could.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did was we renovated stuff that probably should have been knocked down. People were paying $200 a month for rent. It was holes in walls so big. It was just,
Wow.
it was ridiculous.
Wow.
But we went in and we gutted it and we redid it, made it almost brand new.
Yes.
Stuff that we should, but we did that because we didn't want to displace anybody.
Amen. There you go.
In doing that,
Yes.
we put rent regulatory agreements. We put restrictions on the owners where they couldn't sell, or even if they did sell, they couldn't raise the rent and they couldn't put the people out. So we had rent regulatory agreements. We had restrictive covenants.
Yes.
We did all of those things to make sure that these people wouldn't get displaced after we put all of that money into them.
And one of the things, when you mentioned the Publix, it kind of reminded me of a situation where one of the commissioners, now Broward County Commissioner, and the next city of Fort Lauderdale Commissioner, Commissioner McKenzie, would always talk about the fact that when he was representing his district, which is the district where the CRA resides, he always used to say, "We want the same thing here that they have anywhere else. We want, we drink coffee,
Yep.
we eat donuts,
Absolutely.
we want to sit down at a spot to have dinner with our
Absolutely.
family. We want the same quality of life
Absolutely.
in this area that you are able to, be able to take advantage of or experience
Anywhere else.
in the city." And that's a pretty profound
It's
statement
reasonable.
when you think about it.
No,
It's
it's reasonable. And again, that goes to vision, right?
yeah.
And so you say that Commissioner McKenzie is the one that pulled me out of Miami. He's the one that pulled me out of Miami. And,
Smart man.
Yeah.
Smart man.
And he articulated that. And that was, so my thought was, okay, I hear you. I hear that.
Yeah.
And, so when we sat down and we started our visioning and casting vision, what we said was, okay, you hear that, and I say it's almost trite, the slogan where, we want to go live. I mean, we want a community where we can live, live, work, and play,
Live, work, and
and all of that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Live, work, and play. Now they even say invest and all of that. Okay, that's cool.
that started in the downtown.
Uh-huh.
That slogan started in the redevelopment of the downtown. I was being as old as I am. That was back in the 70s when we were when the downtown only
That long ago,
man. That was a place where, in the past it was Birdine's. It was a tennis court. We eventually built the library there, but there was not a whole lot happening in the downtown. And now we see where that downtown is has been recognized as one of the best downtowns in America, where you do live, work, and play, and invest.
Right. Well, so the when I started sitting with our team, we said, okay, and there were a number of different other folks who were a part of this conversation. I'll have to shout out Grace Kewell and Stephanie Jones with chat. Grace was with Grace was with the city of she was with Broward County Cultural Arts Division.
I got you. Okay.
We sat down and we started talking about the fact that when we look at the vision for the Cicerone Quarter, um, cultural tourism is something that we see bringing about the type of live, work, play that we want to see. Cultural tourism. So but at that time there was nothing there. The idea is when you, as a visitor to South Florida, you come into the to Port Everglades and you're going to take a cruise ship to somewhere. You come into Fort Lauderdale International, and if you have time, or if you're coming here specifically to visit here, and you say, well, where can I go to experience the diaspora? We want you to say, you got to go to Cicerone.
All right. Yes.
You got to go to Cicerone.
Yes.
So that was the premise. That was the vision we started with. So if I'm going to Cicerone, what am I going to do? We got to go and have something to eat. We got to go and listen to some music, some this, some that. Picture this. Picture Beale Street. Picture Ybor City. Picture the Bourbon Street, New Orleans. All right. All of these areas where you have an amalgamation of people and culture and all of that. That's what we see Cicerone being. And we're on our way. We're on our way.
And I'm old enough to remember a time when that did exist along the Cicerone corridor, where I grew up, where it was a very lively corridor. Businesses were flourishing, florists. We had a theater. We had, there were so many things that you were right there within the community was able to experience. A bowling alley was there, in the
We're on our
area,
way.
So,
there's a bowling alley on Cicerone right now, right?
Of course. Yes. Let's talk about that bowling alley.
People don't even know.
Let's talk about that because you're right. Maybe through this discussion, more people will understand some of the things that's there right now.
We have a bowling alley that's an amenity in one of these developments that we're talking about. We're talking the Adderley.
Right.
The Adderley, which is the 423 unit apartment building that we're talking about. If you go in there, it'll blow you away. It has a bowling alley.
That's right.
It has cabanas. It has a pool. It has an outdoor area where you listen, man. I would just challenge you to go and just. And when I say
we want to have, let's and I think that's important. And I do think it's important, and I appreciate the time that you've been able to spend with me today. Talking about those things, my brother. I love you because I know what you stand for.
Yeah.
And I know where your heart is and the deed and the things that you've been able to accomplish in your time here with the city has been greatly appreciated.
Yes.
Before we leave, I think we have to touch on one subject, but I do want to bring you back at a later date to expand on it more. But we do know the area is sunsetting. And, we just have a very brief conversation about that. I'll bring you back later to have a more deeper conversation on it, but just to get that word out there and some of the programs that exist that people need to start looking at. We'll talk about that at a later time, but
I know, man. Sitting and talking to you, man. I mean, the time has just gone away. I had another.
That's but doesn't time fly when you're having fun?
Man, it's too, so I'll say real briefly. This year, the CRA was supposed to sunset. It's been 30 years of existence in the Northwest, but we did get an extension to the life of the CRA. They've extended it for another 10 years. Unfortunately, they didn't extend it with all of the revenues that it had. So they basically cut it. So we mentioned that the taxing authorities of Broward County, the city of Fort Lauderdale, the hospital district, and the children's services. Broward County is no longer contributing any of its TIF to the Redevelopment Trust Fund. The other three aren't either. The city will continue to give its TIF, but only at 50%.
Understood.
So
we'll get into that. We're gonna get into that at our next opportunity. But I did want you to put that out there because that's the sort of information that is happening, or things are happening, and I'm not
Yeah,
certain
that people
the
need to
people
know.
need to
Yeah,
know. They need
yeah.
to know, and we're going to get into that. I know you have a very short time,
Yes.
to do this today, but again, I do want to thank you for your time.
Yes.
You've been a tremendous addition to this city, and my brother, stay healthy
Appreciate
and
you,
stay
man.
strong. And we look forward to talking to you
I appreciate
next
you,
time.
sir. Thank you, man. God bless.
God bless.
God bless.